$4 billion U.S. aid program for Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Take a look.
El que se pueda apoyar a los países centroamericanos para que se entreguen apoyos de manera directa, como se está haciendo en México, a los habitantes de Honduras, de El Salvador y de Guatemala, diciendo que me manifestó el presidente Biden que van a destinar $4,000 millones en apoyo a los 3 países a los que hice referencia de Centroamérica.
President Lopez Obrador thanks President Biden for an immigration policy that will benefit millions of Mexicans living and working in the United States.
Estar de nuevo. Primero, le agradecí por su decisión de llevar a cabo una política migratoria que incluye reconocer la ciudadanía estadounidense a millones de mexicanos que viven y trabajan en Estados Unidos. La conversación de ayer con el presidente Biden, que se manifestó muy amable y muy respetuoso con México y con el gobierno que represento. Yo estoy seguro de que vamos a mantener muy buenas relaciones.
Meanwhile, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said Saturday he was willing to turn the page with the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden, calling for a new path. Take a look.
Estamos dispuestos a andar un nuevo camino de relaciones con el gobierno de Joe Biden sobre la base del respeto mutuo y el entendimiento en temas de interés mutuo. En que hace 2 años reaccionamos al intervencionismo golpista de Trump. Hoy decimos, Venezuela, esta Venezuela del siglo XXI bolivariana y revolucionaria, está dispuesta a pasar la página y a construir nuevos caminos de respeto, diálogo y comunicación diplomática con el nuevo gobierno de Estados Unidos. Así se lo digo a los...
The British Prime Minister's office said Boris Johnson and President Joe Biden on Saturday vowed to deepen ties and tackle climate change in their first conversation since Biden's inauguration. The statement from Downing Street said Prime Minister Johnson congratulated President Biden on his inauguration, and the 2 leaders looked forward to deepening the close alliance between their nations. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden on Friday said well over 600,000 Americans could die of the coronavirus as he stepped up federal aid in the world's worst-hit country, while less wealthy nations anticipated better access to tests and vaccines thanks to several international deals. The new administration boosted stimulus handouts as well as payments to help families buy food, with more poor children going hungry after the school lunches they depended on disappeared as classrooms shuttered. Brian Dees of the White House's National Economic Council said the American people cannot afford to wait, adding that many people were hanging by a thread. Various U.S. states, meanwhile, grappled with vaccine distribution, with New York reporting its supply of shots would run out Friday. The country marked its 3rd consecutive day of more than 4,000 coronavirus deaths, bringing the overall count to 418,000, with 25 million confirmed infections. Citing medical experts in a video message that aired on Saturday for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, President Biden urges the American people to mask up for 100 days, saying that masks are the single best defense against COVID-19. Take a look.
In the next few months, masks, not vaccinations, are the single best defense that we have against COVID-19. Medical experts say that by wearing masks from now until April, we will save more than 50,000 lives. 50,000 lives. We're asking the American people to mask up for the first 100 days. I'll always level with you, I promise you. And the brutal truth is that things are going to get worse the next several months before they get better. We didn't get into this mess overnight. It's going to take time for us to turn things around. But we also have to act now, with urgency and unity as the United States of America.
Now, if a picture could launch 1,000 memes, this would be it. Bernie Sanders sitting cross-legged, arms folded, and wearing mittens at Joe Biden's inauguration became the most viral image of the day. The mittens were gifted to Sanders by Jen Ellis, a second-grade teacher in Vermont. Ellis says she now has around 13,000 emails requesting not just one pair of mittens, but more.
I love it that this story has brought so much joy to people, right? Like, we need some joy and we need some laughter. It's been a rough year and people need something to just experience joy all together. Let's all join in and love this moment. And it's something that unites us, because I think that everybody can agree it's pretty funny.
Thousands of online orders for similar mittens to that of Sanders have flooded her email, but Ellis says she can never supply the demand.
Well, I could never sell the number of, I have about 13,000 emails in my Gmail account of people asking for mittens, not just one pair. People want lots of them. And so I never could honor all of those sales. And I think it would just ruin the beauty of it if I started price gouging people online.
The mitten maker says what's more important right now for her is time with family.
This completely came out of the blue, and I know there's a lot of demand for the mittens right now, and I guess I could sit right down this weekend and spend the whole weekend making mittens, but I kind of would rather spend the weekend with my family, And I think that at some point you just have to decide what is most important right now, and that's the most important thing to me.
When we come back, an expert's insight on President Biden's first 100 days. We will return in a moment. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Mga orihinal na musikang Pilipino.
Mga paborito nating singer.
Zaki dahil tuwing 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, iaai na ang kantahan at kainang rolled into one. Abangan sina JC Parker at Marcelito Pomoy because it's time to sing, it's time to eat sa It's Sing Time! Dito lang yan sa Net 25.
It's Sing Time!
You're watching Eagle News America. I am Elisa Gonzalez Manglik Mott in Washington, D.C. Professor Todd Belt, Political Management Director of George Washington University here in the District of Columbia, shares with Eagle News America his prediction of the Biden administration's first 100 days. Professor Belt says it would have to include staffing up the vital aspects of the government, attending to economic and health issues, which includes a pandemic relief bill.
Great. I think that in the first 100 days, what we're going to see the Biden administration do is really staff up the most vital aspects of government as quickly as possible. That's national security, state. Those two areas have really had a lot of people have left office during the Trump administration. Many of them were not replaced. So for Joe Biden to be able to execute his plan of, reasserting American leadership internationally, those are really important. And of course, on the domestic front, people who are going to be involved in the economy, health and human services, and anything to deal with the coronavirus pandemic will, of course, be very important. I think also in the first 100 days, we'll see a COVID relief bill, what the president-elect has termed his rescue bill. $1.9 trillion bill. I don't know if it will be that big, and it certainly will probably undergo a number of different changes in order to get through the Senate, because the Senate does have 50 Republicans, and they can stall legislation without having that 60-vote threshold that's important for moving legislation through regular channels. Mm-hmm. It is true that the Democrats could use a tactic known as the budget reconciliation process, which would only take 50 votes. But the President-elect Biden has indicated that he does not want to use that process if he doesn't have to. Joe Biden's a man of the Senate. I mean, he was there for many years, and he knows how it operates, and he has great respect for the traditional procedures of the Senate, and he knows that you can make enemies by violating the traditional procedures. So I think that that's pretty much what we're going to see there. We'll also see a number of executive orders, which will overturn a lot of things that the Trump administration has done. For example, the Muslim ban, the Paris Climate Agreement, the Keystone Pipeline, a number of things that Democrats would like to change that will try to bring the country's executive branch closer to where it was on January 19th of 2017 before Donald Trump took over.
Belt, who studied U.S. presidency, campaigns, and elections, adds that the biggest challenge President Biden faces are, number one, reuniting the country, and two, being the leader of all of America.
The biggest obstacle is going to be the one that really hangs over everything, and that's reuniting the country, right? Trying to do what he said he's going to do, which is govern for all of America. And whether you voted for him or not. And if he can't bring unity both to the public as well as to leadership in Washington, D.C., he's got to do both of those things. Of course, they're very closely related. The leaders represent the public, and the public puts them in office, but also they have influence over the public. But that's sort of this high-level thing that he needs to be able to do to get the more specific things done, such as the economy and the coronavirus, which are both tied up in that rescue bill that he wants to push. So, I think the hardest thing is reuniting the country, especially consider what went on January 6th here with the storming of the Capitol.
Eagle News America asked Professor Belt if the new president is the kind of leader that could unite America after 4 years of what many describe as a divisive leadership under Trump. Belt says President Biden, who hails from Delaware, has a little bit of magic. How? In the sense that he knows how to talk to and work with people.
Joe Biden does tend to be a bit of a uniting figure, especially with people in the Senate. When he was vice president under Barack Obama, he was often referred to as the McConnell whisperer. He was somebody who could go up to the Senate and talk to the majority leader and get him to agree to things that people didn't think they could get him to agree to. So he does have a little bit of magic that he can work, knowing people and being able to make those contacts. The public's going to be harder because we have had polarization in this country for some time, but of course, Donald Trump campaigned and governed in a way that was extremely divisive. And those are going to be more difficult wounds to heal for the country to bring it back together.
Given that President Biden has what it takes to unite a divided nation, Belt tells us the first step toward unity.
Well, I think the first step is really getting the first step is going to be the inaugural address, right? And I think that we'll probably hear from Joe Biden talking about, the framers of the Constitution and talking about the legacy of American documents and democracy and self-rule and these very high-minded things that all Americans can agree upon. And I think that's something that goes in that direction. Another thing is that rescue bill. If he can get that pushed through really quickly, that's going to put money in people's pockets, and people like that. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, getting some extra money in your pocket is going to be something that's going to be very much appreciated.
Professor Belt says President Biden's nominees are those with decades of experience and skills that could reestablish legitimacy of the government.
If you look at the people that Joe Biden is nominating, they have decades of experience in the areas that they are. They're often deputies to the positions that they were being nominated for. This has actually frustrated some on the left of the Democratic Party because they wanted to get some new blood in there. Some of these people were from the Obama administration. But this is part of what Joe Biden wants to do, is he wants to, number one, have a cabinet that looks like America, but also he wants to reestablish the legitimacy of the government, that it's going to be run by professionals, by people who have the skills to do it, not by people who don't, who could be fired on a whim by the president, as they were in the Trump administration.
Belt, who has authored 2 books on the U.S. presidency, says 2 of the toughest challenges the Biden administration is facing are the economy and the pandemic.
2, the economy and the coronavirus, right? I mean, without handling those 2 biggest threats to our nation at this time, you can't get anything else done. I mean, our nation has been somewhat on pause for 9 months now. And until we get the vaccines out and until we get the economy back up and running, everything else has to be thought of as a different, sort of issue that comes second.
Belt discusses the new administration's foreign policy plan and says that this includes reestablishing the United States as the leading democracy in the world.
Joe Biden last year wrote an essay about the challenges to U.S. foreign policy and how he would address them as president. He has talked about going on a democracy tour around the world to try to confront some of the authoritarian types of regimes that have taken over in democracies, but also to try to reestablish the United States as being the leading democracy in the world. And that's important because, this power has been lost during the Trump administration because Donald Trump conducted U.S. foreign policy in a very much what we call a transactional way, where it was about him, what he could get out of it, whether or not people would say nice things about him, whether he could sell military equipment, whether he could produce a new trade deal and such. So, the way Joe Biden wants to go about reasserting American leadership is in a very multilateral way. He doesn't want to work one-on-one. He wants to work with other nations. This is very much in contrast to what the Trump administration has done. So I think we will see probably Joe Biden go to the European Union countries to try to restore the fraught contacts with our European allies, but also try to reassert American interests into Asia as well, because quite frankly, the Trump administration has backed off. They rejected the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the big trade deal, which of course a new big trade deal was just announced by China with a lot of the countries that would have been part of that. So the United States is losing power and influence in Asia as well. I expect Joe Biden to turn his eye back towards Asia in a way that Donald Trump didn't, but of course, again, to lead with our allies, to work together with multilaterally on issues such as North Korea, where Donald Trump just decided he wanted to go one-on-one instead of using the multilateral approach that had been used for so long in dealing with North Korea. And this is true with other issues facing Asia.
Thank you, Professor Todd Belt of George Washington University. Up next, today's COVID-19 numbers. COVID-19 case numbers drop in Alberta, but restrictions remain. Georgia records more than 700,000 COVID-19 cases as vaccine supply is feared to not meet the demand. Nevada governor delivers 2021 State of the State address, and a major medical center in Louisiana canceling its COVID-19 vaccination appointments due to vaccine shortage. Eagle News America will return in a moment.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A one-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to Mittens, our health outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Happy Peeps! Catch me on Happy Time this Monday at 12 noon, only here on Net25.
Happy time, happy time,
Ikaw ba ay may natatanging talento sa pagkanta? Ito na ang pagkakataon mong ipamalas ang inyong galing at manalo ng 2 million pesos. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang online audition ng Tagisan ng Galing Part 2.
Kaya kung ikaw ay 18 to 65 years old,
magpadala na ng audition video sa tagisananggaling@gmail.com or contact Nikki sa 0977-651-9504. Narito ang guideline sa paggawa ng inyong audition videos. You can also visit our Facebook fan page for more information. Sali na at maging bahagi ng pinakamalaki at pinakamalawak na talent competition on Philippine television and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2, dito lang sa Net25.
Totoo ang kasabihang may pera sa basura, lalo na kung magagawa ang iba't ibang bagay mula sa mga recyclable material na inaakala ng iba na itatapon na. May ilang barangay sa bansa ang nagre-recycle ng basura at makikita ang iba't ibang bagay na gawa sa basura. Mga dekorasyon sa bahay, sa mga proyektong ito, nagiging malinis ang kapaligiran bukod sa mayroon pang pagkakakitaan.
Eagle News America. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot in Washington, D.C. Today's COVID-19 numbers, according to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University and Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday, January 24, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 98,986,000. Top 3 on the list of countries with recorded cases: the United States with more than 25 million, India more than 10.6 million, Brazil more than 8.8 million. To date, more than 2,125,000 have succumbed to the virus. The U.S. leads the countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths with more than 418,000. Brazil is next with more than 216,000 and India with more than 153,000. Now let's head over to our friends in the north. COVID-19 infection rates are decreasing in Alberta, but pandemic restrictions are staying put. Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness joins us this evening for the details. Thomas?
Thank you, Eliza. You know, we're not out of the woods yet in Alberta, or for that matter, all of Canada. There's still a lot of hot spots, especially in central Canada. Now, my province, Alberta, it's made significant progress in slowing the spread of COVID. Case numbers are down. A couple of weeks ago, we eased a few restrictions, but we're still pretty much in a state of lockdown. Now, people watch the numbers drop every day because we announce the numbers every day. And every day they wait for an announcement from the government that things will loosen up, that soon we'll be able to have visitors to our homes. You know, we're just tired of living like hermits. The province's chief medical officer of health agrees that, yeah, we've made some progress. But Dr. Dina Hinshaw says she has to consider more than just the number of new cases.
Our cases are falling, but we still have the second highest active case rate per capita in Canada. It is also particularly important to keep our current hospitalization numbers in context. While our hospitalizations have decreased significantly from the peak, they remain high. To put this in perspective, despite the progress we've made, there are just as many COVID patients in hospital today as there were on December 8th, the day that our current restrictions were first announced. This means that our health system continues to experience significant strains, and we must ease this burden as quickly as possible.
Now, we've seen before how quickly things can turn on us. In Alberta last fall, following the Thanksgiving weekend, when people ignored the suggestion to avoid large gatherings, what happened? Case numbers increased exponentially. In central Canada, right now, things are so bad that a curfew remains in effect in the province of Quebec. And Ontario, the country's largest province, well, it's pretty much locked down. Despite those measures, we're still seeing case numbers of around 4,000 a day between those two provinces. So we need to continue to reduce community transmission. And that means limiting our contact with other people. So I guess for the time being, we stay in our homes and we remain as pandemic hermits. While we wait for this to end, I wish you all good health. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Eliza.
Thank you, Thomas. Now, let's go back a little bit. Remember earlier, during the onset of the pandemic, a great number of the younger generation thought they were invincible when it comes to getting infected with the virus. Now, how was this misconception changed, Thomas?
Well, unfortunately, a great many still think they're invincible, but maybe this will kind of hit home with them. We had 3 recent deaths in the last couple of days in Canada. That should serve as a reminder that COVID-19 is no respecter of age. In Ontario, the virus claimed the life of a teenager. This 19-year-old worked in a nursing home. No indication of what his job entailed. Health officials say they won't give out that information to protect the man's identity. And in my province, Alberta, 2 people in their 20s died of COVID on the weekend, and they had no pre-existing conditions. Furthermore, young people should listen to what the long haulers are saying. You know what long haulers are. These are the people who have recovered from the infection, but they still have lingering health problems, and they're generally younger people. This disease is not like getting over a cold or a case of the flu. In many cases, there are lingering effects, and these can be devastating. They can be life-changing. They can alter your lifestyle. Things like lingering fatigue, breathing problems, relapsing fever, memory problems, just a host of other issues that linger on. Eliza?
Yeah, they are indeed devastating and life-altering. Now, Thomas, another virus spreader is travel. But I hear the Canadian government may impose further restrictions on it. What can people expect?
Well, the Prime Minister has made it clear now that it is just not the time to travel, either internationally or even domestically. So I shouldn't go to see my relatives in Eastern Canada or perhaps on the West Coast. Stay home is the message. We have some hot spots in Canada, and we simply don't want the virus hitching a ride to other provinces. Prime Minister Trudeau says he could impose stricter measures without notice, and if he does that, that may make it more difficult for travelers to return home because quarantine restrictions might be different. It's just going to be a major inconvenience. He's telling people who've booked spring break vacations, cancel them. Forget about it. Stay home. Foreign Affairs Minister Mark Garneau, he was on CBC News this morning. He said that he might even invoke the Federal Emergencies Act, and this would allow the government to limit travel within the country. That could prevent a person from traveling across the country. Bottom line, the situation remains serious. Yes, the numbers are decreasing a bit, but our healthcare system is still at risk, and until enough people are vaccinated for herd immunity to take effect, we simply have to limit 2 things, our personal contact and our travel. Eliza?
Thank you, Thomas. And if time permits, we'll see you later for our roundtable. Stay safe.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Now in Pennsylvania, the state's Department of Health launches a tool for people to prepare for the vaccine once available. Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan has the report. Myla?
Thanks, Eliza, and good evening and good morning to all our viewers. The Pennsylvania Department of Health released the latest revised COVID-19 vaccination plan that includes people who are 65 and older and those 16 to 64 with certain underlying medical conditions that make them more vulnerable to the disease. Here's Department of Health's Deputy Secretary for Health Promotion and Disease Prevention, Cindy Findley. Take a look.
Effective today, we will be expanding our vaccination efforts in Phase 1A to include anyone over 65 and people ages 16 to 64 with serious medical conditions that make them more at risk for severe illness to COVID-19. The CDC has defined this group as people who have conditions like COPD, cancer, sickle cell disease, and chronic kidney disease. Pregnant women also are included in this group. A full list of these medical conditions is available in our interim vaccine plan on our website.
Serious medical conditions also includes Down syndrome, heart failure, coronary artery disease, cardiomyopathies, immunocompromised state or weakened immune system from solid organ transplant or from blood or bone marrow transplant, immune deficiencies, HIV, use of corticosteroids, or use of other immune-weakening medicines. Those who are obese with BMI of 30 kilograms or higher and type 2 diabetes mellitus will now be eligible to receive COVID-19 vaccinations as part of Phase 1A. It is important to note that while the number of people eligible to get vaccinated is expanding, the allotment of vaccine doses that Pennsylvania is receiving from the federal government is not increasing. To help people determine when they are eligible for vaccination and how to get vaccinated, there is a vaccine eligibility quiz now online at pa.gov. Once people complete the short vaccine eligibility quiz to determine if it is currently their turn to get vaccinated, they will go to the interactive map online to find a vaccine provider near them. Then they will schedule an appointment directly with that provider. There is about 548,000 Pennsylvanians partially vaccinated and 111,000 fully vaccinated. Right now in Swarthmore, Eliza, it's 34 degrees Fahrenheit. It's really chilly outside, or 1 degree Celsius with cloudy skies. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Eliza.
It is chilly out there, Myla. Now, Myla, what is the current vaccine rollout for Pennsylvania? And how many phases are there? And right now, in what current phase is the state in?
So the vaccine rollout plan here in Pennsylvania is divided into 2 phases. But phase 1 is divided into 3. There's phase 1A, 1B, and 1C. And we are currently still on phase 1A. It keeps on changing, actually, because weeks ago there were only 3 phases, and we're still in phase 1A, and even phase 1A keeps on changing based on CDC recommendations or based on the needs of the public, especially the vulnerables. Eliza?
Thank you, Myla. Hope you can join us later for our roundtable. Stay safe.
Sure will do. Thanks.
Now, the state of Georgia reaches more than 700,000 COVID-19 cases, and the fear of vaccine supply running out looms. Bureau Chief Philip Toledo is with us tonight. Philip?
Thanks, Eliza. As of this afternoon, the state of Georgia is sitting at over 700,000 total COVID-19 cases since the pandemic began a little less than a year ago. Almost 12,000 lives have been already lost to confirmed COVID-19 causes, and the last 7-day moving average of positivity rate was right around 19.7%, meaning that in Georgia, just like in many other states and other parts of the world, we're in a pitched battle against the virus. Now, a key weapon to end the pandemic is the vaccine, of which Georgia has been allocated a little over 1 million doses of both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines put together. According to the state dashboard today, a little over 600,000 doses have been administered to date. Now, late last week, Governor Brian Kemp gave an update on the distribution. Let's take a look.
As a reminder, our current vaccine allocation from the federal government still stands at 120,000 doses per week. Up to now, 40,000 of those doses have been automatically sent to CVS and Walgreens for administration to nursing home staff and residents. Given that both CVS and Walgreens now have adequate supply to complete that mission, the state will begin receiving the full 120,000 dose allotment next week. This is certainly a positive step forward in our vaccine distribution efforts, and it will mean 50% more supply than we were previously able to provide to the expanded 1A population.
Now, while this expanded allotment of doses coming into the state is a step in the right direction, the governor did express concern over the supply of the vaccine in relation to the demand that we currently have.
But I also, in saying that, want to continue to urge caution and patience for everyone watching today and those in the media. We will still have far more demand than we have supply. We have now administered over 500,000 vaccines, but the expanded 1A population accounts for over 2 million people. Those 120,000 doses have to be divided up between 159 counties, 18 public health districts, and over 1,700 providers who are currently enrolled in the system. Again, our total supply of 120,000 doses next week does not fulfill the demand from seniors and other at-risk eligible Georgians. At this time, we will not be expanding our current vaccine criteria beyond the 1A plus population.
Now, the criteria to expand to the next phase out of the 1A plus population is a combination of both the supply of the vaccine and the total eligible population that's already been vaccinated, which, as the governor alluded to in that last clip, has not yet been met, meaning there are still many more Georgians eligible to receive the vaccine under the current criteria that have not yet been able to do so. Just as a point of reference, the governor mentioned that was 2 million people in the phase 1A population, with a little over 10 million total individuals here in the state of Georgia. Now, to help with distribution, the state does plan to launch several mass vaccination sites once additional doses are allocated and received by the state. We'll keep watching for updates as the war against COVID-19 continues here in Georgia. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Eliza.
Thank you, Philip. We were talking earlier today before the broadcast, and you mentioned this current infection ratio is almost 1 in 10 Georgians. It means that 1 in 10 has had the virus. And you were one of the more than 700,000 in the state who had it. We're just so glad that you're out of the woods, Philip.
Absolutely.
Now,
just to echo what Thomas was mentioning in his report earlier, just, in case anybody's watching, even me myself, I experienced symptoms for several weeks after, I quote unquote turned the corner. So definitely not something we want to mess around with.
Yeah, the symptoms linger, huh? Now, Philip, we heard that a notable Atlanta hero recently passed away. What can you tell us about that?
That's right, Eliza. Hamron Hank Aaron, who spent many years playing for the Atlanta Braves and broke Babe Ruth's home run record, passed away last week. Both Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms and Governor Brian Kemp expressed their condolences, and flags were ordered to be flown at half-staff across the state. Now, Aaron was a prominent member of the Atlanta community who was known not only for his prowess on the baseball field, breaking many, many records, and some of them still stand, but also for trying to improve things for others. He was almost 87 years old. Eliza?
Thank you, Philip. Now let's move on to Nevada. In his State of the State address, Governor Steve Sisolak underscored, among many things, plans on how to battle the pandemic, the efforts of Nevadans, healthcare and essential workers, the bravery of the National Guard, and the importance of access to education in these very difficult times. In Las Vegas, Eagle News correspondent Lori Gervina has the details. Lori?
Hi, and thank you, Eliza. As we all lean forward in this new year, the state of Nevada continues to face many challenges, but the government leaders are doing their part to keep us informed. Nevada's Governor Steve Sisolak announced how Nevada is moving forward during the State of the State address he delivered on the eve of the presidential inauguration.
Good evening. In normal times, I would be addressing you tonight in this legislative chamber, assembled in front of our constitutional officers, elected officials, Supreme Court justices, and other guests. But as we all know too well, these are not normal times. Every Nevadan has been impacted by the COVID outbreak. Whether you've lost a job, had to learn from home, missed a graduation, grappled with keeping your small business open, or been unable to visit family for birthdays and holidays, or in a hospital room. This disease has touched us all. And the truth is, we still have a ways to go. But I know this. Nevadans are battle-born. We face our challenges head-on, and we will get through this difficult time together because the state of our state is determined, resilient, and strong.
During his speech, Governor Sisolak outlined challenges along with optimism. He tackled the COVID situation head-on and quickly laid out the steps that are being taken to provide relief, with vaccinations as its top priority. The governor praised all Nevadans who continue to bravely fight this pandemic, to include frontline healthcare workers, heroes such as doctors, nurses, caregivers, faith leaders, and other public employees, along with the Nevada National Guard. who also play a big role with vaccinations. The National Guard were not only deployed to assist in our home state, but were also recently deployed to safeguard our nation's capital. Governor Sisolak also praised the work of taking care of veterans who have served our country. He also announced the opening of a vaccination mega site at Cashman Field in Las Vegas and expanding efforts to put more shots in the arms of Nevadans. Along with Cashman Field as part of the efforts to vaccinate all Nevadans, he also mentioned coordination with resort properties to have even more vaccination sites. Next, he discussed the importance of education and getting all students back in the classrooms, and also providing teachers with the necessary tools to do their jobs. He highlighted that just in August, approximately 80,000 of the Nevada students didn't have the device or connectivity they needed to participate in distance learning. But as the beginning of January, every student participating in online learning now has at-home access to the internet and a computer to do their work. Along with improving areas of education for the state, Governor Sisolak also mentioned efforts to complete the University of Nevada, Las Vegas Medical School building. He proposed a $25 million one-shot expenditure instead of just talking about our doctor shortage, actually doing something about it. He stated that the UNLV Medical School building could generate as many as 16,000 jobs over the next 10 years. Additionally, he focused on the economy and getting people back to work. Nevada depends on hospitality business. When travel stops, hotel rooms go empty, and when showrooms close and conventions shut down, it hits Nevada harder than any other state. The governor reminded everyone that it's not just hitting big businesses, but also hurting the small businesses as well. In fact, actually half the jobs in Nevada are from small businesses. So in addition to the $50 million already provided, Governor Sisolak added an additional budget of another $50 million for small businesses. And looking ahead, he spoke of infrastructure, green energy jobs, and providing Nevadans other new opportunities of growth. The governor concluded his speech with thanking his family and calling for unity.
I would like to close tonight with two personal thoughts. First, I want to thank my family for their unending support. My mother, Mary, and my two daughters, Carly and Ashley. And of course, First Lady Kathy Sisolak. We recently celebrated our 2-year anniversary, and it allowed me to reflect on what a lucky man I am for having her by my side during one of the most difficult years in Nevada's history. Kathy, thank you. Second, I want to address the division and polarization that is gripping our country. It has to end. It's breaking down trust in our institutions and threatening our ability to solve problems we face. This is America. This is Nevada, and we need to pull together.
Governor Sisolak's speech detailed many challenges and successes and concluded with encouragement to all Nevadans to unite and help each other move forward in this new year. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Eliza.
Thank you, Lori. Now, Governor Sisolak covered many items in his speech. You've mentioned the key points, but what aspect did you find most promising, Lori?
Yes, he did cover a lot of things. As a parent of school-age children, I did find it very encouraging, his updates with his focus on education. And I thought it was pretty amazing that, as mentioned in August, there were 80% of kids who didn't have adequate access to internet. And now today in January, we're 100% with the education system, you know, with all the children in the households having not only just a laptop, but internet, but adapting very quickly to this new environment of learning from the home. So I'm really excited and, you know, happy that the governor placed so much emphasis on education of our children. Eliza?
That is exciting news, Lori. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks, Lori. Coming up, an update from Louisiana from Monique Velasco. Eagle News America will be right back. Stay with us.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net 25.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
This is Eagle News America. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot in Washington, D.C. A shortage in COVID-19 vaccine supply prompts a major medical center in the state of Louisiana to cancel its vaccination appointments. In Baton Rouge, Monique Velasco reports.
Thank you, Elisa, and hello from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Here in Louisiana, Ochsner Health System has announced the cancellation of first dose appointments of COVID-19 vaccines due to a shortage of distribution. In a press release issued by Ochsner on Friday, the cancellation will impact patients in South Louisiana starting Tuesday, January 26. The regions affected include New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Bayou, North Shore, and Ochsner Lafayette. The medical center has administered 86,093 COVID-19 vaccine doses as of Thursday, January 21, and stated, "While we are very proud of our efforts and our hundreds of team members across the state working to vaccinate our communities, we are also facing a critical vaccine shortage. Our currently reality is that we have far more demand for vaccine than supply. We are receiving 70% fewer vaccine doses at Ochsner hospitals and clinics today than we did in the first 4 weeks of distribution, and as a result have to delay first dose vaccinations. Patients who are impacted will be contacted directly through My Ochsner or via text to their phone numbers on file will be added automatically to a waitlist and will be rescheduled based on the order of their previously scheduled appointments. As vaccine shipments arrive, these affected patients will be rescheduled as soon as possible, and patients who already received their first dose will get their second dose as scheduled. These changes will not impact currently scheduled vaccinations at Ochsner Pharmacy and Wellness and Ochsner LSU Health Shreveport." Ochsner stated, "We understand this is a disappointing news for many of our community members, but these changes will ensure a fair and equitable rescheduling process. We remain committed to serving all eligible individuals in Phase 1B on a first-come, first-served basis as supply becomes available. We will continue to provide updates throughout this process and appreciate the patience and flexibility of our community throughout this fluid and constantly evolving situation. Rest assured, our team will continue working around the clock to end this pandemic. Meanwhile, I hope you're staying safe and healthy in your part of the country. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I'm Monique Velasco, Eagle News. We live in interesting times." Back to you, Elisa.
Thanks, Monique. Now it is time for a quick roundtable with our Eagle News team tonight. Today is National Compliment Day. As everyone knows, a compliment is an expression of praise or admiration, and more often than not, can make someone's day. Now, we have two questions for our team. First is, what is the best ever compliment that you've ever received, and who was it from? And what was the last compliment you gave somebody? Okay, let's start with Myla.
Hey, Eliza. So I'm the best compliment I received that I remember was last year because my at work, because I'm a programmer and I also develop systems. So I was able to develop the system that will help my team. So instead of doing so many back and forth, putting in together documents and things like that, I developed a system where all they need to do is input it. There will be an input and output, so everything's quick. So you can before they have to do their work for 3 days. Now it's just cut off for 1 day, something like that. So yeah, my not just my boss, but the two higher ups was I got a compliment from them, and I also got some rewards, like some points, and I was able to get a new coffee maker for my husband.
Perfect.
And I also got a $5 Starbucks gift card. So yeah, it's a good compliment. Yeah, and
the best one, compliment with rewards.
Exactly, yes. And also, I gave a compliment to my son because he's doing online class right now, and he was able to. I taught him how to put together a presentation on PowerPoint. He's 9 years old, and he was so proud of himself. And I gave him a compliment, of course, a good job and everything. And I bought him a McDonald's Happy Meal, and he's so happy about it.
Perfect. Thank you, Myla. Now we go to Lori. The best compliment you've ever received and the last one you gave.
So the best compliment I think I received I've received a few times actually, is I've been a Sunday school teacher almost 17 years ago now. So when I come across some of the kids that I used to teach back then, that they're all grown up, but they still remember some of the lessons they learned when I was their teacher, that's like the best compliment. I appreciate that. I love that. And a recent compliment I gave was probably to my daughter today, when she tends to be very responsible sometimes in comparison to her older brothers. So I told her, although you're the youngest, you're very responsible, and she loved it. And I hope to continue to encourage her in that way.
Thank you, Lori. Now, Thomas, best compliment you've ever received and the last one you gave. Come on, quick.
Okay, quick. Mine is like Myla's, career-related. Minister of Energy and the provincial government called me. I'd only been a political reporter at the time for about 6 months. He wanted to talk to me about a story I had done. And I'm expecting the worst because I'm no friend of politicians. He said, your story was great. It's very, very understandable. It was a very complex issue, and I managed to explain it. And he was so impressed, he actually called. And that's always kind of stayed with me, even though it was about 30 years ago. The last compliment I've given, one of the things I've started doing is with service people, when they provide me with exceptional service, I get on the phone, I call their boss, because their boss normally just hears complaints, and I just tell them, your people did a good job. Why don't you give them a raise or something? And they're just shocked to hear that, because, again, they're expecting, oh, no, what's this guy going to tell me?
Thank you, Thomas. Philip, the last compliment you gave.
The last compliment I gave would actually probably be to my son. When we were at the park today, he's 2 years old, and he spent 10 minutes running around the playground doing laps, and I told him he was so fast. Too fast for dad.
That's so cute.
Hearing it from the dad would be the best. Now we continue to compliment our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers for being our superheroes. We give you a round of applause. We appreciate you all. Thank you. And that is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot. We live in interesting times.
Sila ang mga kinikilala